Why we are not sufficient in Africa in terms of food, in terms of agriculture, in terms of our industrialization. Why can we not transform our own produce into products, into various products, into manifold products? Why are we going to look up to the West at all time? What is the role of the African Union? What is the role of our elites, our leaders, the president, the vice president of the nations of the countries of Africa? This is what we are going to hear and talk about and dissect in this video right now.
But my problem is the fact that Ukraine and Russia produces or export wheat to Africa, but Africa got the world's 60% arable land. So I'm just trying to understand, why can't we feed ourselves, by the way?
Well, that's a good question. You have to ask not only me as a Minister for Agriculture in Germany, also some of the governments in Africa.
Yeah.
And of course, also some of the politicians that had responsibility on our side, because for a long time, the idea was we export grain to Africa to feed Africa, but Africa could feed itself if we just give local farmers back the power, if we just remember what used to be produced, that was much more resilient to the climate crisis, using less water than grain from Germany. But on our side, the problem is that many people in Germany and in Europe think the solution is exports, which sometimes leads to a situation that local farmers in Africa produce more expensive than our sometimes subsidized products that we export to Africa. So we destroy your local markets. Then when some people in Africa try to come to Europe as refugees, we tell them we don't want you. So there's a cycle that we have to stop, that we have to end. But to be fair, we also have to add to that rule of law, fight against corruption, empowering women, in particular young farmers, fighting against food losses. That is also part of the whole picture. So it's reforms that are necessary in some of the states in Africa. And at the same time, we have to question our narrative. And if we work together, I think we can really make a difference.
Wonderful people of the diaspora, here is my first store. AfrigaZone is now going productive. And our motto is for Africa to win. And our revenue, let you know that our revenue, the 50% of our revenue goes to helping people in Africa, the less privileged than us, in supplying their school materials and assets. So do not hesitate to visit the store through this link, afrigazone.merchpass.com, and you'll see my product. And all over the world, it can be ordered and it'll be delivered to your door effectively. And I'm announcing this to our community to support me and to support AfrigaZone in the journey of moving back to Africa, and also participating in the development, participating in the emancipation of our continent. Thank you very much. Wonderful people of the diaspora and the diaspora, thank you for continuing to tuning in. And we want to get straight to the content. In this video, the man Wode Maya, I commend this young man who is doing a great job on behalf of the nations of Africa, on behalf of the continent of Africa. May God continue to give him strength to continue to do what he's doing. And we ask for divine protection upon him. Straight to the content is that when Wode Maya asked him the question, why are we not food sufficient in Africa? Why people are saying that the war is affecting Africa, the supply of food in Africa. A tiny country like Ukraine, country like Russia, why this is distorting everything around the globe, and especially why is it affecting the shortage of food supply in Africa? The German minister answered back. I like what he said. What he said, there's a hidden truth. What he said is just a fact. What he said is straightforward that we must all consider. The German minister answered that we can be sufficient. It is possible that we can be sufficient in Africa. Why are we not sufficient? He said that rebuff the question that This question is supposed to be addressed to our government officials, Africa country government official, that this question that Wode Maya is asking should be addressed to and by Africa country officials, should be addressed by the president, should be addressed by the vice president, should be addressed by the ministers, because he himself is a minister. You see, the elites of any countries, they are responsible for many decisions, for most of the decisions. Sometimes they come up with a decision that we don't understand what is backing it, what kind of reason is backing it. So he said that go back and ask your officials, go back and ask your ministers, go back and ask also your president, why are we not sufficient in Africa in terms of food and food supply? You know, just recently, Wode Maya flew to that same conference, and one of the original intent for Wode Maya to fly to Munich in Germany is to meet also His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, the president of the great nation of Ghana, and interview him. But according to Wode Maya, the same video, the president did not show up. The interview appointment, the interview rendezvous was cancelled. What is the reason behind it? Why? We don't know. Why it didn't show up? Why he canceled the appointment? This is one of the things that, one of the negative things that we have been seeing on the continent of Africa over and over again. You are elected in this position. You are elected because of people. You have to be accessible for questions. Not only to the TV station, not only to the radio station, not only to the elites in your circle of influence, but to the regular people, to the common people. I'm not here to disrespect His Excellency, but this is what we see here in the Western world. That the officials here, whether on the county level, whether on the district level, whether on the state level, whether on the city level, whether on the federal level, they are available for interviews. They are available, they are accessible. You see, even actually, right now in Africa, in the nation of Africa, even pastors who are supposed to be shepherd, leading a sheep. Many pastors, I go to Africa much often. I know what I'm talking about. Even pastors are not even accessible to the sheep, the people that you are leading, for questions, for answers, for what is going on in the lives of very people that you are leading. So this is, I think that this is a tricky down. What we see in the government, the same thing we see at the level of the population. You know, the reason behind it, not showing up at the interview with Wode Maya, nobody knows. But before he leaves this position, before he leaves, you know, his term as a president, we hope that it should be granted to Wode Maya at least one interviews. Coming back to the question and coming back to the rhetoric, what we are talking about, why Africa is not sufficient in terms of food supply, in terms of food. The minister explained that the system in place, the global system in place by the World Forum, by the globalization organism, is to export finished product to Africa. They will come and take raw product. They will come and take the initial product, and it will be transformed. Those products will be transformed, and it will be pumped back to the nations of Africa. Let me give you an example. In Ghana or in Cote d'Ivoire, both countries made up 80% of the production of cocoa. Through cocoa, we can have a lot of things. Chocolate, we can have chocolate powder, we can have milk chocolate, we can have different kinds of products, you know, candy, chocolate candies, and a lot of things. But they will come and take that product at the level of being raw. They will take it back, they will be transformed, and the finished product, they bring it back to our stores, to our supermarket, where we buy it at an expensive price. We are 54 countries in Africa, and this is possible. One of the things that it touch base on is that food loss is big time in Africa. Food loss is in big time in Africa. Wonderful people in the diaspora and of the diaspora, it is our time to step in as diasporans. I go home 2 or 3 times in a year, planning to relocate soon. Check out on my video, you could see that the plan that I'm putting in place myself to return back home. Because the transition is one thing, and beyond the transition is another. Preparation is key. I've taught it, and I'll share with you the way I'm preparing to come back home. And while being home, I've seen certain things myself. I've seen farmers while traveling from Accra to Ebure, from Ebure to Akufo-Addo, from Accra to Pram, from Accra to Dawenya, from Accra to Sogakope, in that areas. We see that farmers, let me take one example, simple example, tomatoes. After reaping the crops of tomatoes, wonderful people of the diaspora, if they don't sell it within a few days, everything is let to rot. So that's what is called food loss. After a few days, if it has not been sold, we should not let it to loss. It should go into transformation. We can have the tomato paste, we can have a tomato juice. It can be used to be transformed to various things that can be used and be profitable. That's what we call food loss. This thing is one of the area, not closing on this to say that it's one of the area of investment in Africa. You know that this channel also is about investment. So wonderful people of the diaspora and the diaspora, now you have the knowledge. Now you have the understanding. Let us move forward. And through this interview that Wode Maya had with the German ministers, I commend this man that is doing a great job. Shout out to you, Mr. Wode Maya. Shout out to you, the diaspora of Africa. This is AfrigaZone, for Africa to win. Thank you for watching on this video, and don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share this video. AfrigaZone, for Africa to win. Don't forget to support me through my store, afrigazone.merchpal.com.